All right, welcome. So this video is called If You Don't Handle Your Problems Will Handle You. And the premise of this video, the idea behind this video is that when you have something, when you have an issue, when you have a problem, when you have something that you need to confront, but you ignore it, it doesn't actually go away, but rather becomes the thing that directs your life, right? So you no longer have the ability or the control to direct your life. Now, this thing that you are ignoring, this problem, this challenge that you're supposed to be facing, but instead choosing to ignore, that challenge now becomes the main dictating force within your life, right? And so the personal story that I want to share about this journey, I have a couple of them, right? One is referring to my athletic journey, right? So my career as an athlete early on when I was younger, there was a couple of nuances, right? So one was my fitness level and the other was my skills and my comfort level with the specific skills that I was to be learning in order to become a professional or even advanced athlete in the field that I chose to pursue. So my fitness was one of them, right? I knew that my fitness needed to increase in order to be able to sustain and keep up with the amount of training I was doing, right? But the issue was when I was younger, I didn't really know what to do or how to go about my fitness journey in such a way that I could develop the level of fitness I needed. So what I did instead was I chose to ignore and push through a lot of the pain and the discomfort, right? So within training, I found I would get very exhausted very easily, and this was due to an early nutrient deficiency for various reasons I'm not going to go into, but the main idea is that it was a nutrient deficiency. So it wasn't actually an experience thing or a fitness thing. It was a nutrients thing, right? And so me, in my head, when I was younger, I was just thinking, well, I'm just getting tired because I haven't trained hard enough yet to build the level of fitness to keep up with it. And that was fair, right? That was a pretty fair belief to have. But that belief caused me to just push through instead of directly address, right? And so by pushing through the lack of fitness that I had and pushing through the amount of fatigue that I had when I was young, actually led me to burning out by the time that I was older, right? So I actually ended up burning out by the time I was 16, 17, and now 18, to the degree that I stopped being able to train almost entirely throughout my junior and senior year in high school. And not because I couldn't, but because I couldn't keep up on the amount of training that I was doing, and I couldn't keep up on the consistency because nothing increased with my diet. And in fact, the fatigue only continued to get worse because, as I mentioned, it wasn't an endurance issue. It wasn't that I needed to build more endurance. It was just that I needed to address the diet issue. But in ignoring this, it caused me to burn out. And another thing is I didn't build strength in my knees. I didn't build strength and mobility in my ankles and within the rest of my body early on. And so this caused knee pain as I started to get older, right? As I'm starting to get into post-high school, I'm 18, I'm training and working on my business full-time. And I've recently been having a lot of knee issues. And this is, again, just because of the fact that I ignored the problem early on and allowed it to grow and advance until now. And so the premise, if you don't handle your problems, they will handle you, is the idea that when you don't handle your problems, right, when you leave them, they then become that dictating force, right? They then become the determining factor in your ability to achieve those goals that you have, right? So when you ignore them, they don't just go away. They amplify and they multiply, right? So what was just some knee discomfort as a kid, if addressed, I wouldn't have had the same issue now, but because it wasn't addressed, it turned into a knee injury, like a true knee injury, right? It went from just being some discomfort to now it's an injury. Now it's something that's actually hindering my ability to work and train. This is the whole premise. This is the whole idea, right? Your problems, the challenges that you face, and obviously You know, fitness is one example. But these challenges that you face, if you do not address them directly, if you do not address them up front, they then become these ghosts or these demons that essentially follow you around everywhere and impact your life in infinite different ways, right? Another example is money, right? Making money. When I was around the same age, about 14, 15, I decided I wanted to start a business online and start making money online. And the issue was I was kind of stuck because I wanted to focus on my training and my development as an athlete, but I also wanted to start a business on the other hand. And one issue I knew that I would come up on was money, right? Was the ability to travel freely, was the ability to afford access to the type of training and the environments needed in order to develop to the next level, right? But instead of focusing on it then, I waited. And now that problem has become one of the biggest walls or blockages in my life, right? To the point that, you know, even though I feel as though I'm successful, I feel as though I'm doing all the right things, everybody around me just thinks I'm fucking off, right? Everyone around me thinks that I am essentially not living up to my potential because my focus is elsewhere. But had I handled this money problem earlier on, people would have no choice but to respect what I'm doing. So these problems that you have, although they start as just early hindrances, if you don't always directly address them, they then become these bigger blockages in your life that then force you to address and overcome them. But there's infinite different examples. The whole premise is that you need to address these problems when they come up, right? And that's it. You need to address the problems when they come up instead of letting them linger in the background where they amplify, they grow, they multiply. So quickly, before we get into the rest of this video, if you guys would like to work with me one-on-one in order to transform your lives through self-improvement, you can go down to the link in the description below. That'll bring you to my Instagram, and you guys can just send me a quick DM and we'll get talking about getting you into the program, whether you're a fit or not. And if I do believe that you'll be a fit for the program, we'll end up scheduling a call through Zoom within DMs. So you can go and click that link if you want to try working with me directly one-on-one. And then another thing I will announce quickly before we get into the actual video, I am building a new program. It is going to be essentially a community that will have 3 different courses in it. At least when I first launch, we'll have 3 courses, which the idea of the program is to be a full spectrum education program for those on self-improvement and self-development, to be able to get all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, all of the tools that you'll need in order to see more growth and see more progress. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go ahead and DM me on Instagram as well and just say, hey man, I was interested in your program, because I will give early access to some people if you would like early access. So go ahead and click that link in the description if you're interested in either of those products. But without further ado, let's get into the actual video. So the first point, and the most important, and the reason why this video even deserves to be its own video, your problems won't go away. And as much as I do believe that this is common sense, you see people acting as though if they can ignore it long enough, the problem will just dissolve and stop existing, right? And this just isn't the case in any scenario. I have never experienced this to be the case, right? I have never once experienced somebody or myself ignoring a problem for an extended period of time and somehow magically that problem goes away. Acceptance of the problem, however, is very different. Acceptance of the problem, I have seen people accept the situation they're in and then somehow magically something comes up and they're able to break free and escape, right? Acceptance does the opposite. But when you resist and you ignore something, it only presses further against you, right? It only presses harder against you. And so when you ignore a problem that you have, don't expect it to go away. The only way a problem goes away is if you actually directly address the problem, right? And in that case, it's you doing that. It's you getting rid of the problem. It's not the problem just vanishing on its own. So a lot of people tend to focus on the external problem, right? And this is where they lose their power, right? Because the external source of the problem is actually just this false mirage. It's an illusion, essentially, right? It's an illusion meant to reveal something internal to you, right? And so the reality of problems is that they're internal, right? The reality of problems is that addressing and overcoming them and working through them is an internal process. And most people think that it's an external process. Most people would think, with my situation, let's use my money situation. Most people would say, well, yeah, just work harder, make more money, put more time in on the business, this, that, and the third. Whereas I would argue, yes, correct, but where does that extra work come from, right? And where is it now? Why aren't you putting in that extra work now? That's due to an internal blockage, right? So the internal blockage is causing you to maybe do less work, maybe do a type of work that causes you to make less money. Whatever the case be, it's an internal blockage, not an external blockage. So the work itself is actually internal, right? The work itself is actually something that happens inside of you, not something that happens externally in the real world, right? If I wanted to make more money, yes, I could change absolutely nothing else and just put more hours in on my business. But it's likely I wouldn't see the changes that I really want to see just by doing that, because more likely than not, the actual blockage from me increasing my income is not the amount of output, but rather where that output is coming from. So an internal state within me is not allowing me to progress, not the external situation. And so the nature of problems is that a problem, or you can call it an ordeal, if you know about Hermetic and Gnostic religion, ordeals are a very common topic of discussion. Ordeals are essentially the idea of a situation or a problem that presents itself to you in such a way that it seems negative, but in reality, it is simply an aspect of you. It is simply a part of yourself that is being revealed to you, right? It is a situation that is showing you an aspect of yourself. And that revelation of a new aspect of yourself is an opportunity to change and transform it into something higher, to something better. That's the idea of ordeals. And so the difference between problems and ordeals is very minuscule. There isn't really one. It's just that when I say problem, you might know what a problem means. If I say ordeal, it kind of sounds like, something else. But the idea of a problem is that it's a situation in which challenges you and therefore forces you to see and maybe overcome a part of yourself. So if you think about it like this, it challenges you in such a way that it reveals to you a part of yourself that isn't strong enough to currently overcome this challenge, right? So it reveals to you a weakness or a lack of strength somewhere. And then it forces you to directly overcome that lack of strength, that aspect, in order to, work through the problem and then eventually dissolve it. And this process is actually how you create change in your life. This is how you create results in your life, right? If I wanted to start a business, well, the first thing that is going to happen when I decide that is I'm going to be presented with a problem. It could be as minuscule as not wanting to start the work, right? But that is the first problem, and therefore the first opportunity to make that change and make that thing happen. And so the reality of problems is they may seem as though they are issues, they are negative, But in reality, by overcoming them, we actually learn something new. We grow in a new way. And so therefore, they are a double-edged sword. They can be positive as well. And so the next point is that these problems that you're facing aren't detached from you, right? They are not separate from you. In fact, you are the cause of all of your own circumstances, right? You are the cause of all of these problems in a deep internal way. Even things you cannot point to yourself and put blame on, they do come from you and your source, right? So the fact that you view this as a problem means that there is something within you that doesn't allow you to easily pass through it. So therefore, it is internal. It is all caused as an internal manifestation of, or an external manifestation of our internal states, right? And so we may like to, as humans, blame other people, other things, places, companies, right? Governments. We might like to place blame outside of ourselves for things that happen to us because we don't like the thing that was revealed to us. But in reality, it is internal in all ways, shapes, and forms. The ideal human wouldn't react to any stimulus, right? Any type of situation. And so therefore wouldn't define it as a problem. And so in reality, when we come face to face with a problem, it is a manifestation of ourselves and an opportunity for us to overcome this self, right? This aspect of ourselves. So ignoring the problem only actually makes it grow. When you leave the problem alone, when you try to ignore it, when you try not to look at it, try not to see it, try to drown it out, what happens in the background is that it grows, it amplifies, right? It multiplies even. And what happens as a result of this is that by the time you then are ready to face the problem, it's not the same problem that you were mentally preparing yourself for, right? It is a new problem. It is a new issue, right? It is something that has multiplied. If I was a smoker, right, let's say I've never been into like cigarettes or anything like that, so we'll use weed as an example. But let's say I smoked weed and I knew I wanted to quit. I knew everything in my life was directing me towards quitting, right? What would happen if I quit immediately would be that I have to face a certain set of problems, right? I have to face maybe an attachment to the drug, maybe, some boredom, right? I need to find something new to do with my time, etc., etc. But if, on the other hand, I don't quit right away, I ignore it, and I keep going for another year, maybe 2 years, and then I decide to quit. Well, now the problem has become worse. Now I may actually be fully addicted to it. So it's not just an attachment to using it. Now I may be fully addicted. Now I may have physical symptoms as a result of quitting, right? I might not feel as good. And this is something I experienced until I learned, some things that we will go over in, I have an addiction course coming, but I learned some things to overcome the withdrawals of simple addictions like weed, maybe alcohol if it's to a lower degree. Really bad alcohol addiction, I can't promise I can help with, but there are techniques and ways to make it easier on yourself and your body. And one of the main ones being just exercise. If you just exercise consistently, it can actually regulate your brain, at least with weed. It can regulate your brain in a way that it can replace the drug almost instantly. So if you're worried about withdrawals, just exercise the first day, and it should help a lot. But let's say, so now I have physical symptoms, and then beyond the physical symptoms, now I also may have, or this is still physical, but now I may have slight lung issue, right? I may have some difficulty breathing compared to where I was when I started. I may have declined mentally to a degree, and that might be something I now have to work through, right? It's still the same action, right? It's still quitting, still removing the thing, still the same thing to overcome it, but now there are more steps in between me being back in homeostasis 100% and where I'm at right now versus if I had quit a year or two ago, right? And that, I feel like that is probably the perfect example of this, because it's a very direct example. You can't argue the longer you smoke the weed, the worse the symptoms are going to get. So it's a very simple example. Another one could be as simple as starting a business. The longer you wait, the more difficult it is to start. And that's as simple as it is. That's as simple as it gets. Let's say you have a bad relationship with your family, and you decide to ignore it for too long. Well, they might develop a level of resentment against you that you can't overcome just by trying to make up and having some nice conversations with them. That might take real work and effortful work for an extended period of time, because you've allowed those scars to set in. And there are infinite examples of this, right? The longer you ignore a problem, the worse it gets in pretty much all cases. I would love to see if someone would comment and let me know if there's a single problem out there that you can think of that the longer you wait to overcome it, the longer you wait to work through it, the better. And the easier it gets to work through. You let me know, because I cannot think of one. I'm really trying my best to. I cannot think of one. So if there is one, you can let me know. Which the fact that I can't think of one means I'm going to make the point that there are no cases where a problem that you have that presents itself now is going to be better dealt with in the future. So how do we actually face these challenges, right? How do we face these problems? And for most things, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Like if you are sitting here waiting for me to explain to you how to face the problem of wanting to start a business but not wanting to do the work, it's like, just do the work. I can't tell you anything else because nothing else has worked for me, right? It's just doing the work, because then when you do the work, you create the state that allows you to want to do the work. And then from there, it's much easier. But you will never break that state of procrastination by ignoring the work. So the first thing is to identify and become aware of the problem, right? What's the problem that we're facing? What is the challenge or the ordeal that we're currently, I guess you could say, in combat with, or currently being faced with? And this is as simple as, when you feel that you're irritated, what's irritating you, right? When you feel this change in state, right? When you feel this desire for something, or when you feel this alteration in your emotional state, like I said before, irritation, right? When you feel this, well, what is the source? All right, so find the source. I could use, give me a second, I'll think of an example, and I'll run through this with you guys. Yeah, let's just say I wanted to start a brand new business, right? But I have resistance to doing the work. So I have to become aware of what's the problem, right? What is the problem? The problem is, in order to start this business, work needs to be completed. I need tasks to be completed. My resistance to the problem, or overcoming of the problem, is the fact that I don't really want to do the work, right? I'm not sure. And so the next thing you have to do is start doing the work to break these limiting beliefs, and then take action, right? So like, I need to start actively working through these belief systems. Well, why don't I want to do the work? I mean, the work is important. That's how we create the result. That's how we create the business. So why wouldn't I want to do the work? Well, it'll take a lot of time. All right, well, what do we spend our time doing now that's so much more valuable? Oh, there's not really that much. Or, oh, there's this thing that's really valuable and important to me that I don't want to have to sacrifice. Well, is it important enough to prioritize it in the day in a way that you can make time for your business as well? Or is it not that important, and is it actually worth cutting out for the time being in order to make more progress in business, right? And then, okay, maybe I decide, oh yeah, it's just a 4-hour thing. I can block it out for 4 hours at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, and then I can work in the off hours. Well, I also just, let's say, I feel like it's going to be really, really difficult and really, really hard, and I'm just not sure if I'm ready to take on that challenge. Well, yeah, it's going to be very difficult. Yeah, it's going to be very hard, but it'll be worth it in the end, right? It'll be worth it. And so You essentially work through the beliefs. You work through the negative beliefs. You work through the limiting beliefs. That's the word I was looking for. You work through the limiting beliefs and reword them, rewire them, right? So you change the belief and then you can take the action. All right, well, maybe it'll be difficult, but let's just see and find out. Let's just do some of the work, see how that goes, and then we'll go from there, right? And then the next thing is to understand that you will always have problems, right? You will always have problems. These will never just magically vanish and you just stop having problems. The types of problems you have, however, will evolve over time. So if you take on a business, for example, well, the problem is that now you need to find the time in the day to work, and now you need to work through customer service issues on a regular basis, so on and so forth, versus the issue and the problems of I don't have enough money. I'm bored and I don't know what to do with my time, right? I don't feel like I have a purpose in my life. These problems, when worked through, go away and are replaced with these problems up here. Now I have a lot of work to do. Now I have this business that I have to maintain 24/7. Now I have all of these people demanding my time and attention. The problems just change and evolve. And so you will always have problems. And so if you accept that, you can learn how to find joy and pleasure and enjoyment in just working through the problems as they come up, right? Then become the type of person who can overcome the challenge, right? So if me now wanting to start that business just stays the same and kind of fights through the need to work every so often, I won't make much progress, right? But if you become the type of person who can overcome that challenge, then it becomes easier and more effortless, right? So become the type of person who can overcome challenge. One thing I could have said to myself in the limiting belief example is, well, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but who are you? Are you one to fall because of some discomfort? Are you one to fall because of a challenge? Or are you one to step up to a challenge? And are you one who is energized by challenge? Like I find for myself, I find a lot of joy and I find myself having a lot of energy within a challenge, within a problem, right? So whenever I'm faced with a problem or something that is challenging, something that is slightly scary, that gives me more energy in most cases. So you want to become the type of person who is capable of overcoming any and all challenges. And you want to have this belief system, right? You want to have the belief system that I can beat, I can conquer, I can overcome any problem, any challenge that I am personally faced with, right? And that belief will allow you to find it to be easier, but also you will likely find more fun and enjoyment in actively overcoming these problems, right? Because you believe that you are the type of person who just enjoys it, who can handle it, right? And if you master your internal state, you can control your external experience, right? So the whole premise of this entire video is the idea that when we are faced with a problem, most of the work is actually internal, right? So when we are faced with a problem directly, the way to overcome it is internal. And if we learn to master our internal state, we can control our external experience. If we learn to master our internal state, we can actually overcome these problems before we're even faced with them, right? So you think of the idea of an ordeal. An ordeal is a situation in which we are revealed to ourselves. If we become so good at becoming aware of ourselves and overcoming the challenges, overcoming the flawed aspects of ourselves, and transforming them, transmuting them into a higher life form, into a higher state of consciousness, whatever. If we learn to do this so well that we can begin to do this process before the ordeal or the external situation is even presented to us, we can completely override that ordeal. We can completely override that experience and not even have it in the first place because we've already done the work to overcome the part of ourselves that would be revealed by it, right? And so by doing that, we become a person who is capable of avoiding that problem, that ordeal, that situation entirely. And if we can get so good at this that we can create the exact internal state, the exact internal reality that would reflect our highest expression, we can then begin to live it in our external experience. So that is all I have for you guys today in this video. If you guys are interested in getting early access to my new program, you can go ahead and click that link in the description, send me a DM, say, just say, hey man, I'm interested in the program you got going on. Is there any way I can get some early access? And I will give you some early access to some of the courses, or I will just take note of you and you will be one of the first allowed to buy into the program when it is launched. For those of you who are still here just interested in the program, I'm going to talk on that for a little bit. But essentially, I'm going to release the program early. It's not going to be complete or anything, but I'm going to release it a little bit early so that those of you who want access at a lower price, you guys can get it. And trust me, I'm not going to launch it with nothing in there for you guys. There's going to be 3 courses, one on routine mastery, one on mental health and mastering your mental health, and one on dopamine detoxing, I believe. Don't quote me on that last one. The last one might be productivity, but dopamine detoxing or productivity is the third one. But those courses will be the first 3 within the program, and for the first 100 people who want to buy in, it's going to be $50 a month. So it's going to be very, very cheap for those who want to buy in early. And then I'm going to increase the price to $75 until I've completed a few of the other courses. And then once the program is complete in my eyes, I'm going to raise it to its final price. But those of you who want the early access, go ahead and send me DMs on Instagram, and I will be sure that you are the first to know when the program launches. And then for those of you on YouTube, I will announce the early access on YouTube within about 2 to 3 months. Actually, 3 months is a little bit long. It should be by the end of June. Is my goal is to be able to launch by the end of June, if not the end of June, by the end of July. So 2 months max. So for those of you who are just on YouTube and you're going to see it, the first 100 people who buy into the program will get the discounted price, and then everybody after that will get the slightly higher price. It's like $25 more anyway, so no rush, no need to buy in early, but if you want to, that option is going to be available. I'm going to be starting to release some content on this channel that is just specifically broken down bits and pieces of these courses that I'm creating for the full program. The program is going to be called Academy of Self-Mastery. It's essentially just going to be a full spectrum education platform for those on self-improvement, which will have all of the tools, all of the techniques, all of the information that you need in order to see more progress on your journey. So if you guys are interested in that, go ahead and DM me and let me know, and I will announce when that is fully ready to go out to the public. And other than that, if you guys would like to work with me one-on-one, I'm still doing my one-on-one coaching, but it'll just be a little thing on the side instead of my main thing. I think this program will be very, very helpful to those of you who are interested in this kind of information but don't want to pay the full high ticket price for a coach. This program will be good for you guys because you'll also be able to interact within the program. You'll be able to interact with me within the program. I'm going to be doing 2 weekly calls within that program, so anybody who's in it has access to these calls. So there's a lot I can do with this, and it's available for more people at a lower price, so it's going to be more affordable. I think it's just going to help a lot of people. So that's something I'm excited about, and if you guys are also excited about that, that's awesome, and I can't wait to see you guys in there. But other than that, this video is all done. That's all from me, guys, and I'm out of here. Peace.